Yo, yo, yo. How's it going? So today I'm gonna paint my son. It's his birthday today. So I'll paint. I'll paint my lovely little boy. Hey Yatsuki, that Onion and Urian. How's it going? How's it going? What's cooking? Oh man. So it's so funny. Internet can be so funny sometimes. Hey Bruno Romanos. Cheers, man. Yeah, it's my boy. He turned 10, 10 today. So those gang signs. Damn straight. So I have a two digit son. It's crazy. Sharta. That's really weird, man. I have no idea why it's being awkward like that. Yeah. He got he got a massive Minecraft Lego box. You know, it's gonna take days for him to build. This like we found the biggest one, biggest one you could buy, more or less. Yeah, two digit boy. There we go. He's a good boy. He's so smart. He's so everything. I'm a proud father. So today I'm gonna paint him. But before we do that, you guys gonna see something hilarious.
Right here, and we're just gonna do really tight braids up against our scalp. So now let's get to the cornrows. So this next product that I'll be using is this steam in a bag corn. It's whole kernel. It has no preservatives. Look at this color scheme. This is some thread needle. Tie that thread, and you are just going to put the needle right through there. Wrap the thread around. Some of my product has thawed off a little bit. Okay, so now that I have finished putting all of the rows of corn in my hair, my cornrows are officially done. They look so good.
No, their faces. And he just walks away. Oh, so good. So good. Fucking hilarious. Some girl making cornrows on herself. But putting actual corn in her hair. Hilarious. Hey Quentin. Kilrathi. Voodoo Breakfast, Just Honest. Oh man. I will shout that, I will. Hilarious. So funny. I'll share it after the stream. Um, I don't know, man. I don't know what some people are thinking. Anyways, let's get the portrait going to celebrate my boy. Um, yeah, man. I was looking at a few funny clips. I shared one on Twitter, which was they fooled a kid. I think it was on his birthday. That he was invisible. That the magician could make him invisible, and everyone was playing along that they couldn't see him. That he disappeared. So funny. But yeah, I was thinking on the topic of there's the microphone. On the topic of oh yeah. Oh man. Anyways, I was thinking about the topic of what I ranted about the other day about like what makes engaging art. And one part that I was thinking about of like how to do that, and Quentin here, hey Eternal Lady, how's it going? Welcome. Welcome to the stream. Anyways, I was talking with a guy at the studio, Quentin here in the chat. He works at Opus, and I was thinking, like, in what way can you decipher what a person, the evolution? And Quentin had the idea of finding work from, let's say, Jamie Jones from the early days and try to find them, you know, like year by year. And in return, seeing at what point does the like magic kick in, right? Where something becomes very palatable. But the problem with that is also usually people don't post their mistakes. Hey Captain Bobs. Oh Morphia, how's it going? Welcome back, man. And Eternal Lady, yeah, I'm good. I'm painting my son today because it's his birthday. He's turning 2 digits, so I'm celebrating the day today by painting him as I'm a proud father of a 2-digit boy now. Yeah, it's the first really big birthday, I would say. You know, if you don't count turning 1. Eternal Lady, yeah, I have a beautiful wife. She did all the good stuff with his look. This is it's like the bad dice of the roll of the dice. Quentin, yeah, exactly. He turned 10 today. His name is Hugo. His name is Hugo Boy. Yeah, but Quentin, yeah, that's the hard part. It's the like. I think there's also never gonna be a switch that's being turned, because I think it's a progression rather than like a moment of clarity when it comes to what makes the art come alive. Like, at what point does the fidelity of someone's taste or I don't know how to explain it kick in. It's never going to be like at the point of like of just someone turning the switch. It's going to be there constantly, and it's going to be developed. So in that way, I don't think you will ever be able to find like the point where an artist becomes really good, because it's never going to be, well, like February 5th, 2005. That's where Jamie Jones figured it out. I think much like a lot of things is it's like a one thing after the other starts clicking, and it's going to be really hard for anyone to um, be able to say also post mortem, like at what time did your art come alive and become interesting by default, like when did you find your voice or whatever. It's going to be really, really hard to, it's close to impossible to be able to do that. Hey, Bar98, welcome. Good morning. Zealin, how's it going? Spirit Dude, welcome, man. Welcome to the stream, sir. Mr. Spiridons. So, I think Turtle lady. Absolutely, Concept Sam. I think a huge part of the artistic journey and what makes us progress is what people always should do is go back to basics at time. The reason is that when you go back to basics, all the progress that you've done, you are filtering and understanding, right? And all the new knowledge you're filtering and understanding. And when you're going back to basics, you are also you're taking all that baggage with you. Baggage in a positive way. I mean, you take that with you. So when you go back to the basics to relearn certain things, you're by default focusing on other aspects of the basics, because you don't need to think about like penmanship or proportions, because those you've already kind of pursued down the road, right? And that's not longer a concern of what you gotta study, right, or learn. So in that way, going back to basics allows you to refocus your efforts into a new line of knowledge. And I think if we, like, for example, if we assume that's true, which I think is quite obvious, um, um, I'm just reading up on the chat. Well, Concept Sam, and well, first of all, Örjan, yeah, it's certain things you gotta practice, and portrait ability is one of those skill sets that if you do something else, you're gonna pay for it in portraits. And me personally, I don't do portraits a lot, so I'm quite sucky at it. It's much like environment or character design. It's like if you don't do it, you're gonna pay for it when you get back to it. Anyways, now I lost where I was in my rant. Yeah, going back to basics and assuming it's true, right? And so much like going back to basics to push your abilities with the kind of technical aspect. When we practice narrative, that is something we gotta practice actively as well. So for someone who reaches a level where they can paint anything and it's automatically attractive to people, let's say outside of the industry, when it's just for face value becomes an engaging image, you have to consider the fact that they are doing something that you are not doing, and whatever those elements are, I think it's they practice the art of cohesively cohesion, right? For me, at least, if I would reflect on my own process, if we now I've lost because I was starting to read the chat. Anyways, I think it's something we gotta practice, and it's a skill set of itself. Like going back to basics, we're practicing on fundamentals of shading and whatever, you know. And I think in order to practice, or in order to create something that's universally attractive, you know, like regardless of who's looking at the art, I think it's something in where you know, like someone can paint an orc. Two different really skilled artists paints orcs, and they are completely different in terms of how you read it, right? And I think a lot of it comes down to your own personal tastes. But you know, you can never create art that automatically everyone will love. Like as a blank statement, everyone will love this painting. That will never happen. But I think there's elements that you can practice, much like rendering practice or compositional practice. It could also be, I think it's a combination of all, like color, shapes, composition, of what makes one artist more attractive, one artist's work more attractive than the other. And in that way, you got to be able to, what would be a practice to do? How could you practice that? How could you look into that? Like, I need to get better at big picture. Yeah, Bjorn. I think that's a big problem, and I kind of ranted about it before. Well, I really suck at portraits. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, son. I'm not doing your beautiful face justice. Anyways, I'll continue. I'll continue having fun ranting. Uh, like, how could you practice that? And I think, like Örjan said, like, oh, too bad I'm only copying. Obviously, he's joking because he's not. He's trying his best to be his own artist. But I think what separates the really good artists from less good, I think it comes down to, like, let's say Marko Djurdjevic. Marko Djurdjevic is Marko Djurdjevic because he doesn't give a shit about. He has done his stuff day one. Obviously, he had inspiration. Obviously, he has looked up to people doing things better than him. But he has stuck to his guns. And in return, he has developed his own style, right? And his aesthetics and his choice of shapes and color and composition and framing. So, what then separates him from someone else that does the same, but not to his level? Yeah. You can hear I have obviously not found a solution to it. My son is way too yellow. Are you having liver issues, my son? Zealin, yeah, flip the image for sure. Or I don't want to flip the image. I know where their mistakes are. Nose is off, proportions of the face is off, everything is off. That's the problem. The thing with what I think is with if you try to pinpoint what I think is needed, what makes a good painting good, or an artist good, is, like, for example, Quentin, he's doing some like illustrations at work, for pitch, like some pitch work. And I did some paint overs over his work to help, try to help him improve his painting. Right, it's a part of my job to do, and I appreciate it. I'm not saying that he needs it, but I'm further down the road. And that being said, like, I can see certain mistakes he's making, but I also have to be careful of not directing him with my taste of what I think he should change in terms of image making, right? Because I want to make him better at him, because I personally think, and in the studio we think, that we gotta develop the artist's style themselves, right? I don't want to impact their journey more than on a technical level. I mean, even then, I'm changing the way, let's say, Quentin paints, because I have to somehow up his game so that he can produce stronger images, right? Because that's the whole idea of art, is to improve at the same time as you're being creative, right? But doing a lot of paint overs for others, and trying to like negotiate the waters of his painting, and find where the mistakes are being made, you start seeing technical mistakes that stops an image from singing. And by singing, I mean there's no start and stop of a melody. You know, like it's just flowing. You know. Concept Sam, Spirit Dude is we are making a book for grown-ups with or erotic art of 100 artists. And as soon as you post something in the closed group of an update of what we're doing, Facebook decides, nope, you guys should be banned. Quentin. Oh well, cheers. Anyways, so as I was kind of trying to get to, as I see a lot of people, or a lot of artists over my like 8 years or 9 years at Opus, um, and trying to help people get better, you know that there is a point where technique and theory starts to work together. Like I've talked about this before, where for example, I am at a point most of the days where technique, you know, the mechanical aspect of creating art is not stopping me, right? It's the idea that's gonna keep me back. If I can't create something, it's not going to be because I don't know how to shade, I don't know how to paint. I know these things, right? And the only thing that's going to keep me down um, is my decisions, right? My taste, my which path am I going to go down for to when creating this image, right? And is my decisions good? Is my decisions to make certain moves technically and compositionally, is that gonna make the image better? And only practicing doing those decisions you can get better at them. I don't think you can get better at making a artistic decision of taste based on technical knowledge. You know? Does that make sense? Like I've talked about this before, but there was a girl, an artist called Christina Lavinia, working at Opus. Uh, for I think 3 years she worked there, and she got so good at the point, like I coached her to improve. She was already really talented when joining, so but I made her better, and I made her better to the point where I didn't need to tell her technically anymore what she should do, right? I more or less coached her in the sense of um, more more aesthetic decisions. Like, why are you choosing to frame the characters that way? What's the point of this narrative? Okay, and she started explaining what her thoughts about it, and then I would say, no, you gotta change, you gotta turn her head this way, or make the face act, like emote differently, because you're trying to describe this emotion, and so on and so on. And in return, she got a lot better when I stopped telling her what color choices she should have, because she was at a point where technique was no longer an issue. Like, I didn't need to correct her on a technical ability, but she wasn't strong enough narratively. And I think that technique, or that ability to finish a painting, where you think about all these little things, like, is that the correct color? Should I lighten this shadow? Like, I call it the last 5% of a painting. When all the other pieces are connected, you're trying to wrap it up. You're trying to finish the whole package. The technical aspect, the narrative, the composition, the very fine little brushwork, the correct little mark under the eyebrow, whatever, to make the image complete. And if you never practice that aspect, but you practice the technical aspect of painting, you will never, I don't think you're going to struggle getting an emotion out of a painting. And I think you can see that a lot of times in beginner's art, where there's no emotion. It's an absolute technical exercise of trying to get something correct. And you can see that in a lot of beginners, because they zoom in a lot and they noodle something to hell, where you sometimes you don't need to noodle something to hell. Like, emotionally or big picture wise, it would probably be better with just a brush mark, like a mark or a line, rather than zooming in. I mean, I haven't zoomed in once in this painting. Obviously, I'm not making a masterpiece here. I'm making mistakes, quite a lot of them. But I've yet had a need to zoom in or push pixels around. And I think a lot of people, especially in the beginning, are trying to make technical mastery. And you got to practice that, but you also have to practice all the other aspects. Otherwise, you're gonna hit a plateau where you don't create interesting images. You're just practicing it, of the act of creating, not a point of view, or not a narrative, not an emotion. Oh, there we go, Spirit Dude. Thanks for the link. Örjan. Yeah, well, you gotta then start thinking what elements are missing from your voice, right? What ability are you lacking? And the answer might not be a technical answer. Let's take the example of your characters are looking stiff. Not you in particular. I'm not saying that your characters are looking stiff. You, but in a generic you. Is that a technical problem or an emotional problem in the sense of how you're describing the pose? Because I think this is gonna sound hippie, but obviously we are emotional beings, and I think we use emotions in our art. I mean, if you would be angry and paint something, you wouldn't sit and paint calmly, right? You wouldn't sit like, I am so angry right now, screaming at the monitor, right? You'd be like, ah! But that, on a technical level, also indicates something, you know, a very strong line rather than a very careful line. There's two different emotional states as a human, but also it has technical implications. And I think that can also have a huge impact in, let's say, you're painting a motion or a pose. And you have to think emotionally as well as technical in, I think, in how you want to translate the emotion of the pose, for example, or the warrior standing on a hill. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's a fascinating topic of a massive thing in art that a lot of people are bad at, and only a handful of artists are really, really good at it. What, you know, like, majority of their art, they're just making home runs, painting paintings that talk to you emotionally and technically, you know. So there's obviously a solution to it because some people have the solution. But I think more and more that it's an actual skill set that you can practice of, like, hitting a technical and taste choices to a level where, lack of a better word, a mastery to it, that it comes almost automatic because you practiced it over and over, and then it doesn't hold you back. Problem is, what can you do to practice it? That's step 2 here, I think. Should we raid Sozomaika? Let's see who that is. If that artist is even on. Oh shit, cool style. Hell yeah. We're gonna raid. That onion, well, I don't know. It's something I'm gonna have to think about because I haven't figured this out either. I'm figuring out with you guys. I think it's something you have to master. It has to be a skill set of have clarity enough to know what emotionally you want to make as a decision, even if it's production art. Is the red you choose full of hate or calm? That can completely change an image from brushmark 1. Cool red or warm red, or lava red, whatever, you know. It can change something completely, and I think you gotta start thinking about it a little bit more. I want to kind of construct some sort of checklist or a mind state or some sort of practice you can do, but I don't know yet. More on that on Monday, I guess. I will definitely tell a happy birthday from you guys. Thanks for hanging out with me. Anyways, hopefully my rant was of some use. Hopefully we can continue it on Monday. Anyways, let's rate Sojomaika. Have a great one, everyone. Much love. Toodles.